Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. It is Christmas Eve. In other words, it's the 23rd. And hopefully this is my last day in before I take a break for Christmas. I'm actually taking a Christmas holiday. I'm going to be off work until the 5th of Jan is my intention. And this is probably the last bench job I'm going to be doing today. I think everything else is either just not done in time for Christmas or it's just software. And I thought I'd record a bit of a ramble video. So this is an Acer Aspire 5733, and it does have a Core i3 in it. So these laptops they were common as muck at some point. I still see a lot of them about, and you know they often had Core i3s in them, and if you stick an SSD in them, they're still half decent runaround laptops. But most importantly, parts for this laptop are everywhere, so they're really easy to fix. This one has a busted hinge. As you can see there, where the hinge is trying to break out. And so on this one, I'm going to be replacing the bottom case, which is this entire bottom bit, and the top case, also known as the palm rest, which is this bit here. So we're going to be replacing those two parts. I've accidentally turned it on. Stop that. Don't turn on. Turn off. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to sit and waffle for a bit while I do so, because I want to. So there are a couple of things that I was thinking of doing for this video. Part of me was tempted to just hit the go live button and just start an impromptu stream and hang out. However, those don't make for terribly good uploads. The other part of me was thinking. I have been putting some thought into, I often get asked, how do you get started in computer repair? And so I wanted to answer that question. And I don't know, we'll just see where this goes, basically. I do actually have a video on how to do this exact repair already. I did one ages ago in one of the earlier days of the channel. So obviously the quality on that isn't so good, but whatever. But here we are. So this is possibly the start of what I'm going to call a Fundamentals series. I don't know if that'll be the name of it. I may just carry on calling it Let's Fix Computers. In fact, I probably will. However, the problem is when you've been running a YouTube channel for as long as I have, which is not the longest by any stretch of the imagination, but I have a large number of videos now. You start reaching the point where you feel like you have to keep one-upping yourself. Every time I make a video, or every time a repair comes in, I'm like, oh, I'll record that. I then think, oh, I've done this before. There's already a video on the channel of this exact repair. And I think, oh, well, I guess I won't bother shooting that one then. And as a result of that, it gets increasingly hard to make videos because I don't want to say I suppose effectively I'm running out of ideas. Now, I'm not saying I'm running out of ideas, but it's more of a matter of it's harder to find material because I keep saying sort of, oh no, I've done that one before. However, I believe that a lot of people, based on what I like about YouTube channels I follow as well, a lot of people actually aren't that fussed about that. And a lot of people are quite happy with seeing just more of the same. It's kind of a case of, a lot of people subscribe to my channel to watch me fix computers, and they don't really care if it's a repair I've done before. They'll just watch me do it again, if you see what I mean. So this is something that I need to stop worrying about. And that's why I thought, well, hey, we'll film this one anyway. And I also want to do a slight angle on it, because a fix like this one is what I call a fundamentals repair. This is not super technical. We're not going to solder motherboards. We're not going to reverse engineer power supplies. This is basic assembly work where I need to take the laptop apart and then put it back together again with different parts. That's it. That's all I got to do. All I need is a screwdriver and maybe a couple of other things. And this is exactly the kind of work that I would want to give to work experience students, which I have now and then. Because I believe that this is where you get started in computer repair, is just learning to take stuff apart and put it back together again. Because if you can do that, then you have a start. Because like when you look at people soldering motherboards and stuff like that on YouTube, that is a very high-end level of repair. And while there are certainly some outfits, this screw is spinning, I need to figure this out. There are certainly some outfits out there that do board repair all day, every day. And that's their main bread and butter. But if you're running just a basic shop like mine, you probably won't be doing that every day. Most of your day jobs will be servicing and this, basically, which is much more humdrum, but it's reliable and it's easy. And it's easy money. You know, I mean, you won't get rich doing this. However, there's always going to be people that have laptops with broken hinges. So to get this spinning screw out, I'm trying to jam something underneath the screw. Is that going to come out? Nope. Okay, in that case, I'm going to try more. That's just pulling out from the casing anyway. This is exactly why we're replacing this. Okay, that doesn't matter. Did we get that one out? Yeah. I think that's all the bottom screws out. Cool, we're flipping this over. Where was I? Yeah, so this is where you need to start. Just taking stuff apart and putting it back together again. And once you're confident with just doing that, and the thing is that when I say confident with disassembly, you can't, I mean, every laptop you see is probably going to be different. You will see some common laptops again and again, but people trying to book stuff in for repair the day before Christmas, or Christmas Eve anyway. Where was I? Oh yes. So here's the thing: is learning to take apart computers does not necessarily mean that you've learned that. It's not like when I'm trying to teach a work experience student how to take apart laptops, I'm not going to say, right, look up a disassembly procedure for this exact laptop, because the skill that they need to be learning is how to look at a laptop and figure out how to take it apart. Because once you can figure out how to take apart laptops, then you can take apart any laptop. That's the trick. And like now and then I do look up guides, especially with like with some really expensive stuff, or especially with Apple computers, where there's really good guides available at places like iFixit. There's a lot of mileage in just looking up the iFixit guide and using that as a baseline. There we go, there's the keyboard at long last. However, that again, for the vast majority of computers, the idea of the skill of computer repair is just being able to take any model that you've never seen before and figure out how to disassemble it without any kind of guide. Because then you're not going to get bogged down looking up guides, and you're not going to be able to find it, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea, yeah. So the point is that's what I think. If you're someone who wants to get into repair and such like, that is what you want to really learn. And you might say sort of, okay, well, I don't have stuff to take apart, so where do I start? Well, start with old stuff. Start with broken stuff, basically. Get hold of broken laptops and dead laptops, and just try and see if you can take it apart and then put it back together again without any screws left over and stuff like that. And, if the laptop still works, then bonus points, because then you can take it apart, put it back together again, and see if it still works afterwards. And yeah, that's it, basically. Because so much of what I do in here often revolves around just taking something apart, swapping out the bit that's broken, and putting it back together again. And the other day in my Discord server, link in the description down below, one of the regulars had posted a picture of a laptop with a cracked LCD screen and was just like, "Oh, what do?" And I was like, "Well, needs a new LCD panel." And they went away. They found and they said, "Oh, I've never done this kind of repair before," but I knew they were capable of it. But they went off and they sourced a new LCD panel from eBay. And a couple of days later, they posted a picture of the laptop with a fixed LCD panel in it. And they were just like, "I did it. It looks great." And I'm just like, "Yeah, well done. You did it." And that's exactly the best kind of feeling when you know, someone who you were sort of obviously is your target audience, someone who you're trying to teach as such, went off and they managed to do the thing. And now they have done that once, they can do that a million more times. And the first time is a bit scary and you're not really sure what you're doing, even though it's, you know, it's not rocket science, but you've never done it before. So the first time is a bit scary. But then the next time you're like, oh yes, I've done this before. And it might be on a different laptop and the screen might come apart slightly differently, or the panel might be slightly different. But the principle is still the same. You know, try to remove the bezel, remove any screws that are securing in the panel, and, you know, disconnect the panel wire, panel out, new one in, reverse procedure. And it's exactly the same with what I'm doing here. You know, it's all the same. I've taken out all the screws on the bottom. I've removed the keyboard, taken out all the screws on the top. And of course, modern laptops, quite often it's the bottom bit that comes off first, but you look at it and you figure it out. And if you're not sure, you just remove all the screws and then you try and open it up a bit and you see where the motherboard sits. And yeah, you can figure it out. So yes, that's where I recommend starting if you're wanting to get into repair, is just assembly work like this, because you can fix a great number of things. If you've got, you know, a lot of laptops out there still in the wild still have hard drives in them, because you can still buy new laptops with hard drives in them. I know, it's terrible. And so a lot of the time, many laptop faults are just going to be failed hard drives. So you need to take the laptop apart, take the broken hard drive out, put an SSD in, reassemble the laptop, reinstall Windows from a flash drive that you've made, and there it is. The laptop now works again. Obviously, you've then got to think about data recovery, but, you know, there's lots of ways of looking into that. Not going to go into it just while I'm waffling, but you get the point. And so if you can do that, you can cover most of the basics of what you'll encounter. And, oh gosh, look at all that dust. Lovely. People often go sort of, gross, that's going to get in your lungs and stuff. Just like, I'll wash my hands. Come on. Don't be a wuss. So yeah, is this motherboard ready to come out? I think it is. And like at the moment, I don't know how many screws are holding this motherboard in. So I've taken out what screws I can see and we're just going to have a look. That's coming out. There's something holding on. Whoa! The DC cable is holding on, so can I flip that over? I can, there we go. I'll turn that over, disconnect that. There we go, that's our motherboard out. Put that to one side. Right, and we can carry on. And everything is horribly unbalanced now, so I'm going to have to balance the screen. There we go. Right, so next thing I've got to do, because we're replacing this bottom case, I've got to take everything out. So the display's got to come off, the DC jack's got to come out, I've got to take off this. Just all the little fittings have all got to come out. So I'm going to just carry on undoing screws. How are we doing? 15 minutes in. That's not bad for a ramble video. Pull all of that out. Another thing I recommend if you're new as well is, like, one of the hardest bits about assembly work is when you take something apart and then you forget how it goes back together again. And that happens. It happens to me all the time. And there's two tricks to that. Is either you could get a camera set up similar to what I do here. Even if you're not actually intending to make YouTube videos, just have some kind of camera set up to record what you're doing. And then you can review your footage and see what you did. And you can be like sort of, oh, okay, then I took this out, then I took this out, and so on. Or you can just have your phone on hand and just take pictures. Every time you remove some screws, take a picture. And then you'll have a sequence of pictures that show how you took something apart. Right, that's all of those screws out. I'm going to grab a toothbrush and just brush down all the dust and stuff off of this. There's one. You may have to practice on stuff that's not economic to repair. Realistically, I question whether this laptop is economic to repair. I'm subsidizing the cost of this repair because it's taken me a bit too long to get to this one. And so I'm just like, whatever, I'm just going to do this on the cheap just to get it out the door. Which I can do at my discretion if I want to. However, when you're fixing stuff, don't necessarily expect to make a profit on your practice work. You may have to pay for parts to fix a laptop, knowing that the laptop is not worth it. Knowing that you're wasting money. However, you're not necessarily wasting money, but rather you're paying to learn. And sometimes you do have to pay to learn. Sometimes you've got to buy parts at an exorbitant price because that's just all you can get hold of at the time. And you know that there's probably a cheaper way to get those parts. But for this just one-off learning experience, you don't mind paying a bit extra. That's that out. I'm going to leave the screw with him because that's a different screw. All of these screws have been the same, but that one's different, so I'm going to put it next to that little board. It's a bit late to point it out now, but what has happened to this laptop is the... there we go. What happened to this laptop is the screws that bolt the display assembly onto the bottom case have worked themselves loose. And that has enabled... So if this is the bottom case, and on the display assembly you see we've got these plates, these hinge plates. So that's the display assembly, that's the bottom case. Because the screws are loose, whenever the screen is opened, it does that, and then when it's closed, it does that. So it rocks on the loose screws. And because when you open the display, it does that, it's now pulling the screws at an angle with leverage, because you've got the screen opening applying leverage onto the hinge, and that eventually will just, you can see where it's just broken all of the mounts. All of these screw mounts are just shattered into a million pieces, and that's how the hinges break. And unfortunately that has happened once the bottom ones went. All of the force went into the screws that connect to the top case and then broke half of those out as well. So now not only have we got to replace the bottom case, but also the top case. So when you have a laptop that has this problem, the longer it's left, the worse it will get. If you can catch it early, then you may only have to replace one part. Quite often when I see this one, you can often get away with just the bottom case. And the bottom case is about £20, or probably about $20 on eBay. So it's not a hugely expensive repair to do. Right, is there anything else on this? I think we've had our money's worth out of this bottom case. That's just a bit of plastic now. This mechanism for the battery release, that will be included on the new one. Smash. Right. Ugh. We need to take some bits out of the top case as well now. I want these speakers and the power button, and we probably don't need the trackpad, but let's actually have a look. Yes, my replacement one has a trackpad. We need the trackpad cable though, we don't have the cable. Doo-doo. So there's a lot of screws to this, which is what makes it a long-winded job. But as you can see, this isn't complicated. I'm just taking things apart. And to be honest, the only major skill here is just keeping track of where everything goes back and where the screws go. And there's lots of ways of keeping track of what screws go where. You could get a organizational mat or an organizational tray. You can get them that either have lots of compartments, or you can get them where you can write on them with erasable pens and stuff like that. Or you could just get a bit of paper. Just put a bit of paper out in front of you and a biro, and just put a little circle around each screw. Say these two screws for right speaker, these two screws for left speaker, and so on and so forth. I've been doing this long enough that I can just figure out how stuff goes back together, but there's absolutely no shame in having some organization. Whoop. Trackpad cable. Power button. we go. Power button. And that's a lot. The only thing left on this is just the trackpad. And I don't know if you can actually remove those. I have no reason to. I think it's bonded to the top part. It's probably removable, but you'd make a colossal mess trying to remove and refit that, I'd imagine. Anyway, we're done. Okay. Let's build up our new top case. So what do I hope to achieve from this video? Well, if you're watching this video and you're subscribed to me, you probably fall into a couple of different categories already. Either you're already in the repair business and you just like watching other people doing repair work to either get ideas or just because it's just your interest and your passion. I know there's lots of people in my audience who are better than I am at this because now and then I see comments from them or I interact with them in chat or in Discord and places like that, and they say sort of, oh, I fixed such and such, or oh, why don't you try this? And I'm just like, ooh, yes, that's a brilliant idea. I never knew that. And I learn things every day. Never stop learning. You may be just someone who has no interest in actually trying to do repair, but you just like watching someone else repair something. There's kind of a cathartic, calming pleasure from just watching someone disassemble something, strip it down, and put it back together again nice and clean, you know? Then I'd imagine there's also a third category of people watching this who... speakers, that's what I need. There's probably a third category of people watching this who watch this and are just like, that's what I want to do. I want to get into fixing computers. That's my dream. And you know, whether you want to get all the way into doing like board repair stuff, or whether you just want to work in a local repair shop, or whatever, you're just sort of watching this and trying to learn and get inspired. And in that case, I hope this video is kind of inspiring to you and gives you some ideas on where to start and that kind of thing. As I say, I'm not the best in the business, but what I try to do is give people a launching point, somewhere to start connecting the dots. Right, got to put this on. I'm not sure where this guy is going to go. We'll figure that out when we put it back on. It'll be quite obvious where that needs to connect to when we put the top case back onto the bottom case. There we go. Right, speakers, power button, trackpad cable. That was everything that the top case needed. So if we wanted to, we could probably try and transfer the case badges. So, you know, the i3 badge and the Windows 7 badge and stuff like that. But I generally don't bother doing that. You can if you want. I've yet to meet anyone who really cares. I think it looks nicer debadged. Right, here's our bottom case. Oh, look how shiny and clean it is. So this one also has no badges or stickers on the bottom. So this one, it would be nice if we could transfer the stickers, but again, I have not practiced it, so I don't know if I could transfer it in a reliable manner. So the main disadvantage here is that there won't be any identifying marks on this laptop, like the serial number or anything like that once we're done. I guess if you really cared, you could print something off and affix it to the bottom or something. I generally don't go that far, but I leave it to your discretion. One thing that you might want to watch out for is this one does have a Windows 7 sticker on the bottom, which would go here. However, this laptop, I'm 99% certain, has already been updated to Windows 10, in which case its Windows 7 license key is now basically irrelevant. So I'm not fussed about transferring that anyway. Let's start putting things in. So we'll start putting in these little boards that go in the corners. USB board, and that's for the DVD drive. find the DC cable. This guy kind of hooked up in this corner somehow. If you're not sure how things go, look at the kinks in the wire. That gives you a hint. So we can see how that kind of moves in that shape. So that will give me a hint as to how this went in. There we go. Now I'm putting that in place. It's sort of dropping in of its own accord now. Yeah, that obviously went through there. And that can reach the motherboard. Right. I think I've kind of said my thing now. So I'm just going to sit and just put this back together again quietly, I think, unless I come up with something else to say. Merry Christmas and stuff. Motherboard. Lots of people will say that I should replace the paste on this. You know what? I'll do it anyway. Normally, I actually wouldn't bother. People will always say sort of, oh, the paste goes off after a couple of years. I have yet to see that be a problem. Maybe your experiences are different, but I've yet to see that be an issue. So normally I wouldn't bother. However, I'll do it. Ugh. Let's take this cooler off and see what state it's in. Hey, surprise, surprise, it was fine. Now I've just got a mess. Socketed CPU. Don't see these very often. Some new thermal paste. Another top tip, invest in consumables. For the longest time, I was always like sort of, oh, I don't want to spend £5 on some thermal paste to keep in stock. And, you know, I did not buy something unless it was absolutely necessary. And it was always a pain. Whereas these days, I just keep consumables like thermal paste in stock. I've actually got half a dozen tubes of it in stock because I'll use it up eventually. Now, I'm not saying that you should have half a dozen tubes in stock if you're starting out, but always have one on the go and one in box, basically. And then as soon as you finish up the tube you're on and you open up that second tube, you order another one. So you're always ordering for the shelf. And that way, you can order one from China or something like that that's going to take 2 weeks to arrive, and it won't matter because you already have a fresh tube on the go. And it means you can get stuff on the cheap. Instead of going, oh, I need this for tomorrow, so now it's going to cost me £10 instead of £5. There we go. This fan okay? Yeah. She'll be right. Ugh. Right, so that's going to go there. That plugs in to there. The hell? Just need to route this DC wire a little bit carefully just to make sure it doesn't catch on the battery eject mechanism. There we go. Right, this fan plugs in there. And here's another top tip. So which way up is the fan connector going to go? Well, the fan is going to sit like that because that's where the screws line up. The cable is naturally trying to lay like that because that's the way it's laid for the past 8 years or however old this laptop is. So we instantly know which way up it's going to go. So that means I can just plug that in blind and know that instantly it's going to be the right way up without even looking. So sometimes just let the device give you the hints. Just putting in these screws loose. Make sure it's sitting nicely and then tighten them up. All right. So now what screws did we need for the motherboard? Well, let's have a look. So we need one there because I remember that one being screwed in, I think. However, I can't remember where the rest of them go. So there's an easy way to tell. We're going to grab our top case and we'll see what screw holes line up with what. So obviously any screw hole that goes all the way through the laptop, like this one here, like that's a case screw. That's coming up, that's just a through hole. Whereas these ones here, you can see there's threads underneath them, so we might need to put screws in there. So what I'll do is I'll just offer up the top case. And as you can see, these all go through from the top case. In fact, I think the one that I fitted, which is there, is the only one that actually gets covered up. Yeah, that one there goes through. Yeah, that was it. It was just one screw. And also from here we can see where our speaker is going to plug in. So that's fine as well. Cool. Display assembly on. Oh heck, I needed to put the display assembly in before the motherboard because a load of these wires go underneath the motherboard. Ugh. Okay, well the good news is there's only one screw holding in the motherboard, so I'll bolt the display on and then we'll just quickly put that to rights. Again, I'm just fitting these screws loose because when you tighten up a screw, it stops anything from moving. Whereas because these screws are loose, if another screw going in needs to nudge things across, it will nudge across because it's loose. Whereas if you start tightening every time, you'll find everything goes under tension and starts fighting you. So just loose for everything. Then when all the screws are in, you go back around and tighten them. And because these are display screws, I'm going to give these just an extra bit of bite. Make sure you wink at the camera when you do that. There we go. Right, so yeah, these this antenna wire needs to go underneath the motherboard. I think I might be able to route that actually. I'm going to try it. So there's loads of posts sticking up here, which are just routing to allow you to bury excess wire space. This is where a pair of tweezers is really handy. They just allow you to have some precision. Alright, I can probably thread this wire underneath. Let's get this guy out of the way again, because he's in the way. Let's go upright a minute. Yeah, so I only need to get to here. So I shall thread that underneath the motherboard and I'll just blindly push it through. Yeah, there we go. This is fine. However, if you need to take the board back out, then take it back out. There are times where you will put everything back in and you'll realise, oh no, I left something out and I have to disassemble the whole laptop to do that. The story that I always tell as a cautionary tale for that is way back when I used to do iPhone repairs still, back in the days of the iPhone 3G, 3GS and the 4. And I was fixing phones all the way up to the 4S. And then it was when the 5 came out that I was like, no, I'm done, kind of thing. That's another story entirely. But yeah, so I was working on a 3GS, I think. And I needed to replace the... can't remember what it's called now, but there's a sort of a back flex which has the dock connector, the power button, the volume buttons and stuff all on a single flex that goes right on the back of the phone, and then everything else goes on top of it and you pile it all up like a sandwich. And I was replacing that and I reassembled the entire phone, and then I pressed the power button and nothing happened, and I was like, ugh, great. Because that happens now and then. You put something back together again and then it just doesn't work. And that sucks when that happens. Also sucks when the phone rings while you're recording a video. Adamant IT. Okay. I've forgotten what I was talking about, so I'm going to carry on fixing now. This motherboard is in. And we're putting the top case back on. Whoop. Right, and we'll just click that down. Oh, that doesn't feel like it wants to latch. Try that again. That's better. Oh yes, I was telling the story. Yes, I was telling the story about the iPhone. So yes, I turned on the iPhone. It didn't work, and then finally, when I looked around on my desk for what I had left, I saw the battery, and realised that I had fully reassembled this phone without putting the battery back in. As anyone who's been inside an iPhone 3GS or 3G knows, that in order to take the battery out, that means the logic board has to come out. So you basically have to fully disassemble the phone again. So yeah, I had to do it all over again. And that kind of sucks, but it happens. And that's why that leads into the top tip for this minute of the video, which is when you're looking at the device you're fixing and you're thinking, have I put everything back in there? Don't look at the device for anything that's missing. Look at what you've got left on the table. Because, of course, if there's no parts left on the table, then therefore they must all be in the device. Whereas when you look in the device, you might not spot something that's missing because the missing thing is the gap is underneath everything. So like right now, we don't know if the fan is in there or not. I mean, we know the fan is there, but you can't see the fan. However, if the fan was there on the bench next to me, then I know it's not in the laptop. So yeah, that's my other top tip. Get these ZIF connectors back in. I quite like doing this job, actually, replacing casings on laptops, because the finished product looks like it just came out the factory kind of thing. If you've got a laptop that has sentimental value, that you really do like, replacing the casing on it and stuff is something really good. You will get a really nice result, and it will feel like $1,000,000. That's that. Right, the keyboard is ready to go on. Yeah, let's... I'm going to take the keyboard out the back and just give it a blast with the air compressor, which will just knock a load of grit out from underneath all these keys. If you really wanted to go belt and braces on this, you can probably buy another one of these keyboards for like £10 on eBay, and then you could put a lovely brand new shiny keyboard in it as well. They're not very good, these Island keyboards. They were one of the early types of keyboards, and as you can see, there's just a void between the keys, which means that it's really easy to get these things dirty, and they're really difficult to clean. You absolutely can clean them, and I'll show you how to do that once we've finished reassembling it, but you've got to be really careful. Okay, let's flip that over and put all the screws in the bottom, as well as the single Wi-Fi antenna for what that's worth. I'm surprised this thing only has one Wi-Fi antenna. I'd expect it to have two. This is the time where this electric screwdriver is just worth its weight, because it's just so effortless to zap all these screws back in now. Okay. I'll drive back in. The action on this is very stiff where it's a new case. There we go. Needed a bit of prying there, but that's okay. Just make sure you pay attention to what you're prying against. Right, where do these last screws go? So we've got 2 there and there. That one needs 1 in. Then I've got to put in these tiny little ones. SD card. SD card. There we go. DVD drive. There we go. Right, and the battery for this, the customer has put on this felt pad, which is because the old case was missing the rubber feet. I would very much like to remove this because it's grotty and horrid, but I'm going to leave that to the customer's discretion, I think. Also, I don't really feel like cleaning all up the sticky mess that'll be under that. However, I will cut off the excess. There we go. Like I bought one. Right. Let's give that a clean. So I turn it sideways like that always, just so I can use my full arm length. And let's grab the glass cleaner. I've just got Tesco window and glass, Windex, whatever, and a microfiber cloth. And I'm just going to spritz down the top of the laptop. Now, because we've got this island keyboard, I need to be really careful not to rip off all of the keycaps here. So what I'm going to do, I folded the cloth so it's nice and flat, so I haven't scrunched it up, I folded it. And I'm going to get it so the grain of the cloth is lengthways with the keyboard. And when I wipe, so pressing down, 90 degrees side, I'm going to be doing that. And then I'm going to push along like that. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do that. So we're brushing across the top of it. And that way the cloth doesn't dig in underneath the keycaps. And as you can see, it just glides across. And just take it slow on these, just so if it does start catching on something, you've got half a second to just go whoops before you rip off a keycap. That'll do. Turn to the dry side of the cloth. And now we've got the worst of it clean, the cloth will just start gliding. There we go. That'll do. And I'll just zap the actual screen as well. Where's the wet side? There we go. So back onto the damp side of the cloth. And I've got my arm behind the screen to support it while I press on it. And onto the dry side of the cloth. There we go. Got to be a little bit careful when doing the bezels not to catch the little rubber bits on them, because you'll ping those off if you're not careful. And there's just a couple of smudge marks from some nasty fingerprints that I'll just get by hand. And that'll do. Right, and go over the top of it. Damp side of the cloth. There we go. Now we turn the cloth completely inside out. And we go in with Mr. Sheen multi-surface polish. And this is just going to leave a really nice smooth finish on everything and make the laptop smell nice. So I'm going to shield the screen from this. I don't want to get this on the screen because it'll smear. So the multi-surface polish, we use that on plastics. We don't use that on the LCD. Unless it's glass-fronted. You can use it on a glass-fronted LCD, but not a bare LCD. And again, the cloth is just gliding because it's all nice and done. And I just accidentally pushed the power button, so it's turning on. But that tells us that it works. There. Oh, it's so smooth. Smoother than a 10-string guitar. Okay, there we go. That's it. That laptop is nice and refurbished. I'll give it a software service as well, so that means just making sure that Windows is up to date, and I'll defrag it because it's got a hard drive in it. And that'll make it slightly less awful, because with a hard drive in it, this thing's going to be balls slow. It wants an SSD in it, really. If I owned this laptop, I would buy I'd just buy like a cheap 250 gig SSD for like, I don't know, 20 or 30 pounds or something like that. Just a really cheap thing, and lob that in there. Because obviously you're not going to be using this for anything super serious. So just a cheap little SSD will make it feel fast. And with that i3 processor in there, it'll still be good. So yeah, that's it. And that's it for this rambling video. So thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Have a lovely Christmas or a happy holiday or whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope you enjoy it. Say hello to all your loved ones, give them a call, and yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the new year. Links down in the description below for my my Twitter, my Patreon, and my Discord channel, and those will be on the end card that you'll see in a couple of seconds as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.